do? What it do? What it do? What's going on, guys? It is your boy Daga, and welcome to another Eagles Uncut 2.0. And today we have a special guest, Josh Davis of the Philly Special Show. How you doing, boss?
I'm doing well, man. It is good to be on here. I know we've been trying to get connected for a couple times now, but I appreciate you being patient. But now, good to talk birds, talk about the Bucks game. We're 3-0, so hey, that's the best news. We are still undefeated.
Oh yeah, man. Actually, I was at the game too, man. And let me tell you something. It was nothing but green on the stadium, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Actually, there was actually after the game, there was a reporter, Tampa reporter. They was actually trying to look for a Bucks fan to report them, but they couldn't find anybody, so they
yeah.
had to report a Eagles fan, which was insane.
That's awesome. Was that the
Yeah,
same video? I saw a video of someone trying to do a report, and the Eagles fans kept kind of like coming behind him. And then was that the same one there?
I think
Okay.
you might have been the same one. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I saw beforehand it was like 60% was reported initially for Eagles fans, but then whenever like people are posting the videos, it looked like it was way more than 60%. So it was like, hey, anytime you take over a stadium, that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, man. Like you couldn't hear anything. Like it was nothing but chant about the Eagles, and like had like more than half the stadium was like all green and or white. And it was crazy, man. It was awesome. I'm
That's
not gonna lie.
awesome.
All
A
right, so
little
let's
jealous,
get into
honestly.
that a little bit, man. On this offense, the defense. On I want to start first on this dominating defense, man. On Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. Like those duo. On how good do you think they can be together? And how dominated they can be in the NFC East, man, for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I don't know if it's hard to say, right? I mean, for the potential of them, and I was talking about this earlier, but just the fact that we've seen Jordan Davis make that jump so far. It's early, but he's definitely made a jump. He's made his presence felt. But then getting a Jalen Carter, the idea is, whenever he was coming over, I think of like, hey, Jalen Carter will be comfortable, and there's not a better spot for him to be in, which I totally agree that there's not a better spot for him to be in than in Philly and with this group. But you heard reports of saying Jalen Carter coming to the Eagles is going to be a better thing for Jordan Davis than it is for Jalen Carter to be with his guys. And at first, it's like, wait, I'm not quite sure behind that, the logic, because like Jordan Davis is not a rookie and Jalen Carter is. But now I think you're seeing the difference is Jordan Davis has that extra motivation, the extra guy. I mean, anytime you got your bro there and they're like, hey, let's go get better. Like, let's work, let's put in the time, the effort. And I think you're seeing that, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor. And also Jordan Davis just being comfortable. But I mean, man, like we all saw, you get to see it in person, so I'm a little jealous of that. But we all saw the violence that the baby Rhino plays with, and him being able to dominate a game as a rookie already. When you've got all pros like a Tyrann Mathieu that are tweeting saying like this dude's Chris Jones already, and he's got a really bright future. I mean, that says everything. So we know about Jalen Carter, and we've seen enough that offenses are scheming. We don't see a lot of times where you got rookies that constantly are getting double teamed. They're saying, hey, we'd rather take Fletcher Cox one-on-one than we would Jalen Carter. So that's a lot of what you need to say there. But then with Jordan Davis, I mean, he's not just the run stopper. Like he's proved that. He's been on there on some passing downs. He's registered several pressures, not just showing the strength and saying, hey, I'm going to stack it up, but actually being able to dominate in both phases. So I don't know. I don't know where the limit is, quite honestly. But with them being in tandem there, I mean, it's almost like, when teams say, oh, hey, we've got Fletcher Cox to deal with, but he's kind of getting towards the tail end of his career. Okay, maybe the Eagles won't have some dominant D linemen. It's like immediately, okay, you insert the next couple. And these guys, I would assume for the next 10 years, it'll be Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis.
Yeah, that's what I assume too, man. And not only that, man, like whenever I was over there and I was just watching them, like uh rushing the passer and everything, and even like Jalen Carr was getting double teamed like a lot of the times as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like just breaking through those double teams as well, man. It's like he's a freak of nature, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And actually that safety that we got on the game as well, one of the reasons was because of him, because he took on the double team, and Nicholas Morrow was able to plug in the hole, and to get the safety.
Mm-hmm.
D-May, what's up? What's going on, man? Yeah, baby Rhino, for sure, for sure. Now, Jalen Carter so far this season, I'm reading one of my notes that I have over here. So,
Mm-hmm.
according to Jeff Kerr, Jalen Carter and T.J. Watt are the only two players with 15 pressures and two forced fumbles this season. Okay, now Jalen Carter have a lot less snaps than all the other defensive tackle as well. Now
Hmm.
we know we like to keep everyone fresh. On that D line. Now, do you think his role is gonna increase on significantly on as time goes on as well, like this season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't feel like initially that it will. As you get later into the season, and perhaps maybe not even until playoff time, then all of a sudden you might start to see it getting ramped up a little bit. But I feel like he's making so much of an impact, and the argument could be made, okay, hey, why don't we put him out there more? I would love to see him more. It just feels like this defense and the way they like to rotate D linemen, keep them fresh, keep them healthy because you don't want to get injured. That I feel like they might stick to that strategy, which again, it's like, okay, well, that may dictate whether or not Jalen Carter can become an All Pro this first year, or whether he can make the Pro Bowl. I think he's got the ability, no doubt, but the question is, does he get enough snaps to get the stats to get there? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles still just say, "Now we're going to have him play roughly 40 to 50% of the snaps," and then as we get into playoffs, he's fresh. And then, you know what? Hey, all bets are off. We put him out there 80% of the snaps if he can go that much, because we're in the playoffs now and it really matters. So that's where I would lean towards. Although, again, my vote, if I'm saying, is get him out there as many snaps as you can, because he's just a game wrecker.
That is true as well. And teammate said Jalen Carter was getting held damn near every time. His double team stats are crazy. Just like I
Hmm.
said, I think it's almost 60%. Yeah, it is, man. I'm not gonna lie. Another thing that I want to talk about as well is this linebacker core that we have right now, man. Because going to the game against the Bucks, they surprised me big time. Especially on whenever they're covering, on coverage, because that was one of our Achilles heels, was like the linebacker position, and the coverage. On how do you think they play against the Bucks? Like, do you think it was good enough for us not to bring anyone else in, or do you think we are good to go just them and with Nakobe Dean as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see whenever Nakobe gets back, but I thought they played really well against the Bucks. I think you
Mhm.
saw a very big progression from really, I mean, certainly week 1 until week 3, but you saw some plays. I mean, Nicholas Morrow being the benefit or the benefactor of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter creating havoc up front on that safety, but still Nicholas Morrow shoots the gap, makes the play on the tackle and getting the safety. Made a couple other good plays with his play recognition. There's a little times where a little susceptible to kind of passes over the middle, and we've still seen that as being maybe the main weak spot on the defense. But overall, like, I mean, I think that you got to be happy with the improvement and the progression that the linebackers have made in those first couple weeks. And then, like you were mentioning, getting Kobe Dean back, the idea is that you're definitely getting an added element, and he's going to be much better because he was get the green dot wearer to start the season. So assuming whenever he does come back, he slides into that role, then you have a little bit more depth, because initially I think we might have thought, well, we don't have as much depth as we need in linebacker. But granted, at the same time, I mean, if you were to ask me, like, what's the main weakness on this defense, or do we need anything, I would still probably say it's linebacker, but they played
Mhm.
better. So I got to give him a little bit of props on that side. And then we don't have Nakobe Dean. So it's a question of, all right, once he comes back, see what the linebacking core looks like. And then, if they're just totally unsatisfied or they're playing terrible, does Howie try to go and make a move with the limited cap space that we got left there? Or does he try to go and get something? Possibly. But so far, I mean, I'm not too upset about it. And they've definitely played better than what they were in week 1.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Hey, how you doing, Quizzy? Queenberg Gang 86? How you guys doing, man? Thanks for coming in.
What's up?
So that was on your side.
Yeah, I was just saying what's up to him. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
my
yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah.
I thought I was in the background. Okay.
Okay.
So another another thing that I want to talk about is James Bradbury on the slot, man. How do you think he did on the slot, and do you like him switching position to the slot corner instead of on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he did fairly well. He looked a little uncomfortable on I think 2 passes in particular. One was where he was guarding Godwin, and the other one was against Mike Evans. He didn't get a target on the one to Evans, but he did give up the catch to Godwin. Uh, it's just one play, so it's probably nitpicking. But to me, he looked a little I don't know, out of space or uncomfortable. I'm not sure what leverage he was supposed to play, but it looked like at first he was kind of reacting in terms of an outside position, the outside corner, like he normally plays on that side, and he gave Godwin the slant. Again, it's just one play, so it's probably nitpicking there. I like him being in the slot on occasion. Now, do I think that he's the long-term answer? No, and I wouldn't want him to be there long-term. I think that he's too good. He's an all-pro, as we know, on the outside, so you don't want him to be there long-term. But if you ask him occasionally, whenever we have a tight end that we're playing, like a Travis Kelce or someone to that effect that we can hopefully limit a little bit more, then I would say, hey, move him to the slot. And then you have Job, who the Eagles are going with right now. I wouldn't mind seeing Eli Ricks getting thrown in there for some action, see what he can do. But the Birds like Job so far, and he played better. We got to give him some credit. He played better against the Bucs than he did against the Vikings, so you got to like that. But I mean, overall, I think that he did a pretty good job, James Bradbury, in the slot there. And then also, I mean, what's Sidney Brown going to look like? Because that's another question in terms of the slot. He got to play a couple plays there. He played slot in college. Is that an option? I mean, his speed and athleticism is ridiculous. It shows very easily. It doesn't take long to watch a game and go, man, that guy's got something different. So maybe he's the answer. Do the Birds drop him down there and play him in the slot a little bit more often? He was asked about that, and basically said, hey, I'm here to help however I can. So it'll be interesting, because if Justin Evans dealing with his neck, maybe Sidney Brown gets the start at safety. That could be a possibility. But if Justin Evans comes back and he's healthy, do you try to give Sidney Brown some more snaps? I say, whatever you do, get him on the field as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, so far that's kind of the question for the slot of, what are you going to do there? But curious. I mean, I guess you being at the game, it's always better, I think, seeing it in person than watching, on the TV or what we could see than anything there. But from what you saw, what would you say is your, I guess, your first pick in terms of who you want at slot corner, just from the snaps you got to see? Who's your top pick?
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. I really do want to see Eli Ricks, man. I've been high on him. I actually did a video on him whenever we signed him as well.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like James Bradbury was a little uncomfortable on the slot, and he, like you said, he's definitely better on the outside, and that's where I would want him to be, on the outside, and maybe even try Eli Ricks on a slot. If not, just like you said, I would definitely want to see Sidney Brown's playing more snap. I would definitely love to see him on a slot as well and see what he can do, Because one thing I don't want them to do, man, that we did with Nakobe Dean last year, is limited their snaps, Because they did that with Nakobe Dean last year, and I think that kind of hurt him a little bit this year, And I don't want them to do the same thing with Sidney Brown as well this year, Even though he's playing a lot, I feel like he's playing a lot more than what Nakobe did last year,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, Sidney Brown definitely would be another big what is the word? A big plug in the slot.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, what would you give a grade for so far since you've seen those 3 games for Sean Desai as as a day coordinator for the Eagles so far?
Yeah, I would say it's certainly been one of the bright spots. If you're looking at this team, I don't think that anyone's 100%. No one's saying that in the press conferences either. Of like, hey, we're not where we want to be. No team's playing where we want to. But I would say so far, given the personnel that he's dealt with some injuries, hasn't been 100%. Now, I know every coordinator is doing probably the same. No team's perfectly healthy, but still, there's been some holes that he's had to fill. I would probably give him like I don't know. I'm between like a B plus or maybe an A minus in terms of where Desai's gone. There's been some plays on we talked about a little bit earlier, but it's the middle of the field being open, certainly in week 1 with Mac Jones. And then even against the Vikings, he kind of let that happen quite a bit with Hawkinson. But I think that Desai's still figuring out his personnel a little bit. He mixed and matched a lot in training camp. He even did it in preseason games. So you're starting to get a little bit better of a feel, though. Okay, hey, this is real games that matter in the regular season. What players play best in certain situations and where can you put them? And he's also made adjustments. And I think that if you take a look at, because the first game, I believe you can chalk it up to rust. Some people may not agree that there's such a thing as rust, but I believe that you could say, hey, as long off season, you got new personnel, you could chalk it up as rust. The second game is a mini, or not a mini bye. The second game is not a lot of time between that. We had a Thursday night game, so you don't expect major changes to happen. But you look at the mini bye, you get extra time coming from the Vikings game going into the Bucs game, and the adjustments that were made to absolutely dominate the Bucs. I mean, 174 yards of total offense allowed. It speaks for itself. You give up 11 points. kind of one of the scores, late in the game doesn't really matter. Sure, you would have liked to keep him out of the end zone, but overall, I mean, I think it's a drastic improvement what we've seen, and Desai's just going to get more guys back. Hopefully you have the other ones that stay healthy, but so far, I like what I've seen. He's made some adjustments. He's getting creative, and you also can't discredit the fact that we're creating turnovers. We're getting turnovers whenever it matters. I don't think you ever like to go a single game without creating a turnover, let alone
Yeah.
multiple games. So the fact that the defense can do that, I think it speaks volumes to being able to affect the quarterback, and I believe we'll just continue to see that. So I'd probably be B plus, A minus, somewhere in that range. But how about you? Are you in that same type of frame for Desai, or where are you at?
Look, man, anything is better than Gannon. Let me tell you this. If we had Sean Desai, I really do believe if we had Sean Desai on the Super Bowl, we would have won the Super Bowl. Simple as
Yeah,
that, man.
yeah.
That is just explain how bad Gannon was, first of all. And
Mhm.
second of all, I think like Sean Desai, like, so far being doing a pretty good job. And like the first game, I guess it was just like jitters and like it's the first game like with a team that just went to the Super Bowl. Like they have high expectation, but because he comes from the Bears. Like the Bears, like they're a dysfunctional organization.
Mhm.
Let's put it that way. And we like with the Eagles, like they know what they want. They know like we have to go back to where we gotta finish the job.
Mhm.
So and the adjustment that he made so far, from game one to game two and from game two to game three, we are just getting better on defensively,
Yeah.
and I love the adjustment he's making as well, from the D line to the linebacker. The linebackers, which was one of our weaknesses on game one and game two, in the middle of the field. He made adjustments on that, and they're playing a lot better, especially on the game against the Bucks as well. So
Mhm.
I'll say I'll definitely give him like a B plus to an A as well so far, to the
Yep.
3 games.
Yep. I agree. I will say though, I agree with you on the whole Gannon comment. But at least give him a little bit of praise for beating the Cowboys. I mean, if there's anything
I mean,
else,
yeah,
he cost us quite a bit. But this week or this past week, I did enjoy seeing that. I was like, man, are you kidding me? Of all teams to beat the Cowboys, like they're going to go into Arizona and lose. So I wasn't too upset about that. That was pretty good.
I know I was the same way too, man. I was completely shocked whenever like even after the first half and that they were losing, like there's no way they're gonna lose it. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way, and they you know
Yeah.
they did Cowboys things, man.
I know.
What can you say?
I was like, all right, well, that's good. That's good for us. Dak is Dak. That's what we expect. But yeah, I
Exactly.
enjoyed seeing it.
And let me tell you this: because of that loss, I think I still believe they will make the playoff. But because of their loss, I think they lost the division of that loss, man.
Really, that loss that early. I mean,
That
it's
loss,
it's it's a big loss. I mean, I won't lie. Like it's one that you definitely shouldn't lose. But I don't know. I feel like there's still tons of season left. So I wouldn't say they hurt their chances. I would agree with you on that. I don't know if I'd go as far as they lost the division just yet. I mean, there's plenty of time. Hopefully, we don't slip up against the teams that we shouldn't. But I mean, it's every once in a while you lose teams like we did last year with the Commanders. So we got them coming up this week. I don't think that we will this week. But last year. I think we all remember the Quez fumble and
yeah,
losing that one. So that wasn't great. But I don't know. It doesn't help their chances as far as the Cowboys go. So I'm still in favor of that. You lose to the Cardinals. That's a good thing.
yeah, that's definitely is. Now let's switch a little bit to this offense, man. And let me tell you this: like between week one and three so far, it's been quite different from what we've seen last year, and from week one to week three as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what is the main difference that you've seen so far from week one against the Patriots to now week three against the Bucks?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, week one, I think that everybody, and probably including Brian Johnson and Sirianni, were just trying to figure out, like, what is this team going to look like? Trying to run plays and get more of an identity. I know Jalen Hurts has said that in multiple press conferences. We need to build an identity. We have an identity for this team. I think that you got a little bit more of that in week three. One of the differences too is it looked very vanilla offense in week one. I think it's your trying to figure out again schemes, what works, what doesn't, how do you prep for a team, what are you planning on. You got to see a little bit more adjustments with the mini buy, so you're getting ready for the Bucks, but also you get a little bit on tape to say, okay, hey, what can we limit or take away? from the defense, or what are they going to try to do to us? So I think it was multiple sides. I think it's the game plan and the prep, but also being comfortable to say, hey, let's take a few shots. Like let's draw some things up, try to impact the defense differently. Personally, for me, I think the biggest play, and obviously, it was certainly a big play because it was a score, but I think it was a big play elementing for what Brian Johnson did differently and the impact that he made was the touchdown pass to Lamade Zaccheaus. Because if you go back and look, and Fran Duffy did a great job for breaking it down, but looking and realizing that the defense was going to be in a cover situation that would allow to kind of set up a deep shot, but it's going to take some time. So you rely on the offensive line. You say, hey, buy me some time, basically. And Jalen did a great job, even though he was a little off. I think he's admitted he's not really quite to the level that any of us would want him to be, but he did great there. He bought some time. He's in the pocket, finds Zaccheaus, strike over to the deep shot on the right side, and score the touchdown there. So I love to see that, but I think it's just getting a good flow for the game to say, let's run the football, let's be balanced here, but if the defense is going to give it to us, let's just keep doing that. And so I think that the difference is from week one, you're not just going in saying, this is our game plan, we're sticking to it, but you're starting to see a little bit more of that game management and that adjustment to go, well, hey, the defense is just going to not stop this run, so let's just keep doing inside zone for the rest of the game until they're going to stop it. So I like seeing that too from Brian Johnson.
Yeah, and same thing with me as well, bro. And actually, one thing that I realized as well, like on the first game against the Patriots, we were kind of like on the passing game, we're iffy on that, like we're questioning Brian Johnson a lot, and on game two against the Vikings, he made an adjustment. Like, okay, you still whenever we went to game two against the Vikings, the passing game was still kind of iffy, and Jalen Hurts wasn't really connecting that good with AJ Brown or Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert either. And they're like, okay, so we gotta lean on our offensive line and we gotta run the ball more, and that's what we did, and that's why Swift got 175 yards, in the second game. Now after game two, we'll go to game three against the Bucks. So let's try to go back to the passing game, but we're gonna implement that running game as well. And he did a little bit of both, and you can see that Jalen Hurts got a little bit more of his flows, with AJ Brown and with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert as well. So they got that connection, not fully back yet, but you saw a better improvement compared to game two and game one as well. And that's something that I really, really was very impressed with Brian Johnson. Was that adjustment from game one to game two and game two to game three. Now, one thing that I did think that we lacked on is on the end zone. So I think there was one point in time that we were like 4 for 6, in the end zone. How do you have anything to implement on the end zone?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, that's for sure. So, there's areas where we can get better. I think that we're 25th in the NFL in the red zone, if I was looking at the stats right earlier. So I think it's something like 25th. It definitely need to be better. I mean, you got to score points when you get in the red zone. Now, thankfully, it hasn't mattered yet. But when we start playing against the better teams and you have the gauntlet schedule coming up and we're playing, the Miami Dolphins who put 70 on the Broncos, like we're going to have to score. If we get in the red zone, we're going to have to score. So it's not a glaring weakness or concern yet, but it is a red flag that's popped up. Is okay, hey, when we get there, we need to have better play calling. We need to have situations. I feel like when we get in the red zone, it's kind of shortened the field. And as we all know, I mean, you get in the red zone, there's not as much field to cover. And so the defense can kind of make those stops. But it's almost like we get a little bit too cute because we throw the ball too often. Like we got down, it was at least 2 times, maybe 3 times. We got into the red zone. And as soon as we did, it was 3 straight passing plays. And it's like, well, we ran the ball with DeAndre Swift to get there. Why are we not still running the football? Now, I know sometimes, the defense can stack the box and it's maybe not as open. But still, I mean, as we've seen with this O-line that we have, I would still rather bet on that and say, okay, hey, let's see you stop it for once. Until you don't, we're just going to keep running it. And so I don't know, maybe they get back to that situation, but it is a weakness like you brought up too of you do need to be better. You're not going to win every game, certainly against the better teams, if you still are 25th in the league in the red zone. It's got to be more efficient. As great as Jake Elliott is, and we know he's going to make just about every single field goal, we don't want that. You got to get 6 points whenever you get into the red zone. So I think you'll see a difference, again, with the adjustments and where Sirianni's leaning towards. He talked about it as well. He's like, hey, we do need to get better in play calling, especially situationally when we get down into the red zone. So I think it's only a matter of time. But this offense, both sides of the ball, defense too, and special teams for that matter. I mean, they're all getting better, but I think offense, if we're trying to nitpick and say which group is behind the others, I think offense is a little bit further behind than the defense, and surprisingly, special teams has been better than I thought it would be. But Britton Covey, I mean, the great returns in the game there. I didn't expect to see that, but hey, maybe he's better than we thought he was.
I know, and everybody was going crazy, and with the crowd, like on the game, everybody was going
Yeah.
crazy whenever they actually got down 1-2. Man,
Oh, I
it
bet.
was
Yeah.
crazy.
That had to be electric being in the stadium.
Oh yeah, it was, man. Now, what would you give a grade for Brian Johnson so far? Through 3 games.
Yeah, through 3 games. I don't know, it's hard to say because I don't know. I don't exactly know what I expected for sure, but I would say that I felt like the offense would flow a little bit better than the defense, just because again, you have a lot of the same pieces, and Brian Johnson being comfortable and familiar with this group, kind of figured like, okay, there's going to be some changes, but not a whole lot, so you don't have
Yeah.
to change too much there. I would say he's definitely got to get better. He's had his moments. He's stuck to the run at other times, but there's been some issues or some just questions, I guess, that we've probably all had. Overall, I would say through the first 3 weeks, it may be a little harsh because it is only 3 weeks, but I'd say maybe like a C plus. I think that there's a lot that this offense can do better. I think there's a lot of play calls and situations that I would like to see differently. And I've seen tons of people in my comment section that are saying it as well. So I think there's other elements. But again, questions of, okay, how much is it with the personnel? Are you trying to figure things out? Do you need to be better in other areas? So I think it will get better and improve. But right now, I would be lying if I say, anything better than a C plus, B minus. I mean, I feel like that's as high as I could give, because I think we all look at it and go, there's too many weapons on this offense to be 25th in the NFL in the red zone. So I think that's why I got to go with about that range for the grading system. So are you in the same space, or where
Yeah,
you at?
I was just gonna tell you that right now. I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say a C plus to a B minus as well.
Okay, yeah.
Just because the stuff, like, I like the transition that he made, and the modification that he made, but there's still a lot out there that is left out, on a passing game that I still like. I gotta see more,
Mm-hmm.
and especially like on the end zone and stuff like that. And like the adjustment that he made it was good adjustments, but still, as like you said, only 3 games. We still got to see more.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
one last thing before we go as well, boss. Commanders game plan for the Commanders. They just came from a loss against the Bills, big loss. I think it was like 38-3. What is the game plan going against the Commanders this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because I don't really necessarily love to see a division rival or a division opponent coming off of a big loss, because it feels like they're already motivated for a divisional game, and then they got killed the week before. So I still think that we're going to win. I think that we're going to win relatively easily. I mean, the line for the game is I think at 8. The Eagles favored by 8, so it suggests to be not super close. But I feel like still we know. I mean, the Commanders have a dominant, or can be a dominant, defensive front, and they can present some issues or challenges. Now, of course, we've got a great O-line, so it shouldn't change too much in terms of, we should still try to run the football. We should still try to impose our will. If the running game is clicking, then look out, because that opens up everything else. But defensively, I really want to see us get to the quarterback more. Now, maybe the Commanders change their play calling because Sam Howell's been just destroyed back there. I mean, he's had 15 sacks or something like that through the first 3 games. So he's leading the league in that. The Bills had, what was it, like 9 sacks, 10 sacks?
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that. It was like at least 8 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, at least 8. So, it also makes you wonder, okay, are they going to change it up? Because you don't want to go into a second game saying, oh, this is the Eagles pass rush that's very vaunted and everyone knows what it is. Are they going to have shorter, quicker drops, try to get a screen game or something to set it off balance? I don't know. I hope they don't, because it'll just be a recipe for success for us. But if all things kind of stay level or normal to their play style, then I would say you got to dominate with the pass rush. I mean, it's just you got to get home to Sam Howell. The pass coverage, I think, will be okay. I think we'll be fine. But we should be walking away from this game, I would hope and expect, unless they just scheme it differently. But 4 sacks, 5 sacks, that doesn't seem too crazy. It seems like you should be able to get there. I know teams are very scared of the Eagles' pass rush, and last season, doesn't help that in terms of when they game plan for us. They immediately say, "Oh, it's the Eagles. They're going to sack the quarterback, so let's scheme differently." So it doesn't allow for as many opportunities probably to sack the quarterback, but still, I think that we would all love to see a 4 or 5 sack game. Hassan Reddick, hopefully he can get going. I think that he needs to. He'll be that added element. But overall, I would say those are kind of the main things I'm looking to see or to kind of keep an eye out for in terms of the Commanders. But I'm not super concerned. Maybe I should be, but I'm not super concerned with the Commanders. Seeing what we have seen so far, I think that we will improve, continue to get better. Should win that game.
Yeah, I feel the same way as well. Like I think like my score prediction definitely 35-21.
Okay. Yep.
And
Yep.
I think like our D line is just gonna dominate, their O line because
Mm-hmm.
they're pretty much like mediocre, especially whenever they play against the Bills. Like it was non-existent, let's
Mm-hmm.
put it that way.
Yeah.
And not only
Not at
that,
all.
yeah, Sam Howard turned over the ball 4 times as well,
Mm-hmm.
And so I see a lot of turnovers in this game. I see, like you said, a minimum 3 sacks, and I think it's not even gonna be. I think it's gonna be close maybe the first half, but then whenever comes third quarter, we're just gonna slip away, and they're not gonna be able to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I can see
And
that.
do
That would be.
you have a score prediction for it?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't thought about it a whole lot. I would say probably if I've got to go some sort of score prediction, I would say maybe like a 27-20. I don't know if I'm able to, and I know we've already gotten over 30, but just with the offense, it's like I want to see Brian Johnson show me. I want to see the offense just have that dominating game and really be effective. But until then, I'm kind of thinking, Commanders defense, like they're not awful. They can make some plays. They got destroyed last week, but like you mentioned, it's more so because of Howell's turnovers and giving the ball to the Bills. So I feel like it could be like 27-ish for us, and then defensively, I feel like we can limit them pretty good. So 20 for the. I'll go 27-20.
Oh, okay. I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate all you guys that came in through as well, man. And I appreciate Josh, coming through, talking some words with us as well, man. And if you guys
Thank
have
you.
not yet, make sure you check him out, the Philly Special Show. It is on the link on the description below as well. And you already know, go Birds.
Go Birds.